news is that Saudi media group are reportedly out of the running to take over at Chelsea. That news has come from Nazir Kinsella, who has stated, and I'm going to read his quote for you, it's in the live comment section, that Saudi media group are out of the race to buy Chelsea. They weren't selected by Rain Group, who are the merchant bank that are overseeing this situation. They are disappointed, but open to joining another consortium to help raise money. But as it stands, they are out of the race to buy Chelsea Football Club. Their bid has been rejected. Now, if you're a Chelsea fan and you've been listening to the Football Terrace, you go back just over a week to what we told you. Our contact at Chelsea Football Club said that Chelsea themselves were a little bit apprehensive about the idea of working with the Saudi media group, although on paper there was no direct connection with anybody that worked directly for the Saudi media group to the Saudi Arabian government. Of course, when you start digging deeper into who the investors are going to be, etc., it became a little murkier, and it was always going to be the case. Many people very close to Chelsea felt that they would look to say no because they don't want to find themselves in a predicament like we've just seen in the future. I know this is going to come as a really big disappointment to a lot of Chelsea fans. A lot of Chelsea fans out there wanted the Saudi media group. They wanted them to be, the go-to people to bring them in. Still no word on who has made what we think is going to be a four-person or four-group shortlist. Todd Bowley leading the way. The Ricketts family are reportedly going to make the shortlist. Nick Candy is likely to make the shortlist, as it were. Comment here from Zonsum, who says, most fans didn't want the Saudis anyway. We want Bowley or Candy's consortium to win, is what he's been said there. In terms of who has said this news, it's literally pinned in the live comment section. This comes from one of the most credible Chelsea sources in the world, Nazir Kinsella, who has said that they are out of the race. Who is going to pick it up? Who is going to be the next owners of Chelsea? Nobody quite knows yet. And let's be absolutely blunt about that. Nobody knows at this moment in time who that is going to be. But Saudi Media Group are out of the running. Now, Chelsea fans watching, I want to know from you how you think and feel about this. I would say this, in my comment sections over the past 2 to 3 weeks, the Saudi Media Group did appear to be the fan favourites, did appear to be the name that came up more often than anybody else. So I want to get your take and your thoughts and feelings on this. Most Chelsea fans, Blue Viper here says that the Lizards will, that's a weird one there. How am I doing? Simon McGill, I'm very, very good, my friend. Thank you. Luke here says, I'd happily have the Saudis, but the news with one of the other consortiums who go through. And this is key. This is what a lot, this is key. You still may get that Saudi involvement, as it were, but and I think all that Chelsea fans really need to focus on is having good owners. I think that's going to be the most paramount thing for their football club moving forward. Sal here says, what BS? Everybody wanted SMG. Trent here says, laughing my ass off, Terry. How are you going to spend all that money on a hair transplant just to wear a cap? I'm not revealing what it looks like now until it's like really thickened out and grown. That's what I'm doing there, my friend. That is what I am doing there. Izzy again says, who is this news according to? Nazir Kinsella, probably one of the most credible Chelsea journalists in the world. A comment here says, the Rain Group will select their fellow to come back for a bigger and better offer. You've got to remember, Chelsea have to get this club sold and done in a 4 to 6 week period. We're kind of 2 to 3 weeks into that period already. There will not be a second bid. It isn't, and this has been spoken about by us here on the terrace and many other people. This isn't about this isn't about the situation with. This isn't about the situation in terms of how much money is being bid. This is about the overall package. And as we stated before, there was a feeling at Chelsea Football Club. There was a feeling at Chelsea Football Club that maybe, just maybe, it would be better served to veer away from a body and a group where you don't quite know the inner goings-ons of things, where you just don't quite know who's involved behind the scenes, who the investors actually are. And even though on paper they were not connected to the Saudi government, that doesn't mean they're not connected to the Saudi government. It doesn't mean there isn't restraints and controls. And the example I was given by someone I know very close to Chelsea, they said is this: at any point, they could find themselves under pressure from the rulers of the country, the royal family of their country, who quite literally, again, by one way, shape or form, own Newcastle. Let's stop looking here at what the paperwork says and legally how things stand. We know in this world where it comes to this much money, it's not about the legal standings, it's about reality here. And I always felt this was going to be the case, that this could happen. One second, I just got to message someone. There we go. Let's do a few more of your comments here. Terry, please check Simon Phillips' video on Pete Ricketts. The whole family is bad news. And I kind of get that, that people don't want the Ricketts family. I have read that the Ricketts family will make the shortlist. Make of that what you will, but I have read that the Ricketts family will make the shortlist. So I want your take on that. I want your view and opinion. The Ricketts family to make the shortlist is doing the rounds. People are speaking about it. People think it may happen. I want your take on that. Are you good, bro? That's from Tyrone. I'm very well, my friend. I'm just here. We're getting set up for a brand new show tonight on the terrace. We're going to do another live ranking show in the room. Never done it live together before. So we're going to be filming that very, very soon. But I wanted to bring you this breaking news because it's huge. Old school Terry background reminds me of them days. Yeah, listen, it's my phone. I haven't streamed off my phone for about 9 months. I love doing it, really. It's a lot easier to set up as well. Terry is a real bad man. You don't take his kindness for weakness. Mark Reed, that's an interesting comment, but I'm not a bad man. I'm just a normal guy. But thank you for being... I know you're trying to be kind there, so thank you. If the Ricketts get the club, you can go to Chelsea games, and you go to a Chelsea game, you are a disgrace, especially if you are a Chelsea fan, is what Liam says. A lot of venom there towards him. Ricketts can go to hell, is what one of our members here, Chronic Dan, has got to say. Why reject the Saudis but take the Ricketts? I think you've got to understand, go back and listen to what we said last week. There was a lot of worry and concern that although on the paperwork and on the surface and legally there was no direct connection to the government, it's very difficult in Saudi Arabia to have multiple multi-millionaires and billionaires investing into a consortium for none of that money to have no connection at any point to the Saudi government. It's very, very difficult. It's kind of difficult in all countries to do that, because the wealthiest people in every country always are politically exposed or always connected to governments, whether it be donations, whether it be sitting in office at times as well. You've only got to look at some of the people that are looking to buy Chelsea from America. Some people that are trying to buy Chelsea have literally been ambassadors under the US ambassadors in foreign countries for Donald Trump. Most billionaires are politically exposed at some level. The difference is that you're never going to see the UK sanction the US government. It's not going to happen. So it's a safer bet. If anything goes wrong with the relations between Saudi Arabia and the UK, Saudi Arabia and America, Chelsea could have found themselves in the exact same situation in 3, 6, 9 months, a year, 5 years, and they want to avoid that. That will be the crux of it, in my opinion. Terry, when you were a banker, did you get in via a graduate scheme? No, I got in because I was selling mobile phones, and I sold a mobile phone to a bank manager who wanted to employ me purely by luck. When I say luck, I mean the absolute most amount of luck I've ever had in my whole life. I sold a phone to someone and they said, "Do you want to come work for me?" Big up Christine Williams if you're watching. Big love to you. Helped change, and Claire Dalton, you two together helped change my life. So thank you very much indeed. Who will benefit from the sale of Chelsea? The government. Well, what I've read is that any profits made through the sale will go and support people in the Ukraine. That's what Roman pledged, and it's what the government's doing. I do understand that all ticket sales to do with Chelsea games at the minute, from a Chelsea point of view, the proceeds will go to the UK government. I think they're taking that money right now, and then it will be filtered on to various charities supporting the people of Ukraine, is what I've read. but I can't verify that because I haven't done enough research on it. Audio randomly cut out, or is it just me? I don't know. It might have done. I'm doing it off my phone, so there's not much I can do about it. Where are we so far, Terry? I don't know what you mean by that. You've got to be specific with these questions. There we go. Chelsea are a disgrace is what Nelson says. Why Chelsea a disgrace in your opinion? Give me your thoughts. When you make a comment like that, please expand to help us understand. It always sits a little bit better. Ross here says that the Saudi media group would have taken the longest time to sort out of all the ownership stuff, and Chelsea are hard pressed for time. That's also a great, exactly, because they've got to go, it's going to take a long time to dissect who the investors are, how they made their money, where their money comes from, and then their business interests. It could take months to complete the advanced due diligence needed, all the politically exposed reviews that need to be done on all the individual investors. It might just get to a point where Chelsea say it would have been great, but we just can't afford at this moment in time to go down that road, to go down that angle, to invest in that way. And that's a very sensible thing for Chelsea Football Club to do. It really, really is. Football Style here says, why, just why? CFC Matty says, SMG saying they are open to sponsorship deals with Chelsea. Yeah, they want to... You've got to remember this. This is one thing I've got to keep saying to Chelsea fans. No one who's trying to buy Chelsea is looking at Chelsea in the same way Roman did. Essentially a club that he's going to love and adore, but it's going to be his plaything. I'm going to pump all my money into it to make it successful. Everyone looking to invest in Chelsea is doing so for business purposes as well as trying to keep the club performing well. But I believe that all these consortiums, their biggest aim is let's keep Chelsea winning so we can use it as a way of pushing our brands and growing our assets and enhancing our wealth. That's what these consortiums are all investment consortiums, investment funds. That's what they're there to do. So the Saudi media group will of course want to sponsor Chelsea. Big shirt sponsor, stadium sponsor, training kit sponsor. They want to get their brand out there. They want to grow their market. And I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that happen, no doubt. Global CFC says Americans out. Nick Candy, in my opinion, will be the best owner for Chelsea, is what Sam Bullard's got to say. Red and Whites, come on you Blues, one of our members here, says, Terry, have you heard about any potential owners that haven't been aired yet? No, not really. I think it's the main people that we've seen. They've all been very public about it as well. None of these individuals have really kind of been overtly private about it. There may be some kind of secret bids, and I did read somewhere that over 25 bids were put in, and I haven't read about 25 individual bids. There is then the chance that certain consortiums can join others and whatever else. I wouldn't expect the Saudi media group to join any other consortium because then you hit the same due diligence issues though. Again, DJ here, one of my members, proud member of the Terrace, says the fact that we have Rudiger, Kante, Sarr and Ziyech, if the Ricketts get us, they will be gone. If they cannot get the Saudi media group, please, not the Ricketts, would take anyone else but not them. Question for Chelsea fans. If you end up with the Ricketts, what will you do? Forget what everybody says you should do. What will you turn your back on your club? Will you support but through bated breath and clenched teeth? Or will you just accept it and look at how they run Chelsea and operate Chelsea? What's going to be your stance? How do you feel about it is what I really care about here. Chelsea fans don't want the Ricketts only because they don't spend. Don't let them fool you is what Sports Genius has got to say here. Hamza Khan says we will protest. Matty says turn my back on my club after 28 years of support. CFC Matty says he will turn his back on Chelsea if they get in. It's a big claim. That is a big statement. I want to know what you think and feel. Simon Jordan says Nick Candy doesn't have the money. Yeah, listen, Nick, there isn't one person who's trying to buy Chelsea so far that I've seen that has the wealth to drop £3 billion buying a club. If you're worth £3 or £4 billion, you don't spend £3 billion of it cash, boom. You go to a consortium. What Roman did was so rare. What Sheikh Mansour did was so rare. You build consortiums and you get other people to invest. That's typically how these things are done. Let's have a look at some more comments here. You can't own more than one club. Yeah, we know that, my friend. Chelsea just need to be liquidated. Oh, come on, James. Like, there's banter and then there's just stupidity, my friend. Come on, that's not even good banter. It's boring banter. There was a super chat that came through that I must have missed because I can't see it. Oh, here it is. It says, thanks for helping me get through the day. That's all. No worries. That's from Moose Wizard. Not a problem, my guy. I appreciate it. Make sure you're all tuning in this evening. I'm not too sure what time it's coming out yet because I'm waiting for people to arrive. Big live debate show here in the studio tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. Can the Saudi media group buy Man United? No. Well, they can, but I doubt it's going to happen. So just drop that thought. Ricketts will spend 20 million in 20 years if Chelsea get lucky. We'll see. We'll see. I know no one wants the American owners. I know the American owners are very much not wanted here. Man like Twisted Bubba says, Terry, will the new owners pay up in full immediately? Yes. There will be a lump sum payment, I would imagine. I've never heard of a purchase of a club where there isn't an initial lump sum paid, done over the line. I'm being told to check Nazir Kinsella's tweet. Let's see what he said here. He says, full story on Saudi Media Group, non-selection by Chelsea and Rain Group for the next ownership. Their plans had details to immediately inject 200 million into the club. Let's have a little look here at what's being said. So Nazir Kinsella has got this story out very, very quickly. He says here that investment bank Rain Group have close that down, have communicated on behalf of Chelsea that will not take the Saudi media bid forward. It says, what was Saudi media's proposal? It says Saudi media had experts in the football industry. They were ready to pump £200 million cash directly into the football club immediately. Plans, though, were thought to be excessive and competitive, but it may have suffered from perceived connections to its country's government, which is something that it denies. It would have likely extended the due diligence process for Saudi Media Group compared to the group. Yeah, I mean, he isn't really saying anything in his article that we haven't already discussed here on the terrace, and that's with respect to Nazir Kinsella. I know he has the same connection at Chelsea as I do, so I know he's going to get a lot of the same information. Chelsea just had fears and reservations that if you dug deep enough, there could be connections. And it isn't even direct connections in life. And I'll give you this example. Where I grew up, we all knew who the shotter was on the estate. We all knew who the top boy was on the estate that run things. There was no proof though. I had no proof that it was him, but we just knew. So I wouldn't have gone to the police because I'm not a grass, but I couldn't go to the police and just G him up because they'd have to have proved it. But he weren't handling anything. He wasn't holding anything. He wasn't the one exchanging money. He just kind of controlled it. So on paper, there was no connection to him. But in reality, he was the top boy. This is kind of what happens in these circumstances. You don't need to have it on paper that you're involved. But Chelsea have just got to be careful here. This was always likely to happen. Let's have a little look here. Ike says, Ricketts being accepted goes against everything Chelsea stands for. Roman can't possibly pick them. Their track record is atrocious. Big up Terry. Well, Roman has no say. Roman has zero say in this. He's out of the loop. The Chelsea Football Club have been given permission by the government to make the pick. Chelsea will make the pick based on the advice given to them by the Rain Group. So Chelsea make the decision, but it will all go through the Rain Group. But Chelsea make the decision, not Roman, not the UK government, and not Rain Group. Chelsea do. Chelsea will be given all the information. Lawyers will give them all the pros and cons, and then they will make a decision based on all of that. That is how these processes typically work in most walks of life. Do me a big, big favor and smash that like button, please. Give it a smash right now. It's important that you support the Terrace in that. Terry's been watching too much Top Boy. Yeah, but you get my point though, right? That's how the world works. It isn't what you know, it's what you can prove. And you might be able to prove on paper there's no connection between a government and a certain group. But in reality, are they swayed? Are they influenced by? Can they be controlled at any moment by the prince who owns Newcastle? At any moment, could he fall out with them and say, do this and do that as I'll take this away? Is that a possibility it could happen? If the answer is yes, I wouldn't want my club owned in that way. I don't want my club owned by anybody that at any point could be controlled by the owner of Newcastle. It might not happen today or tomorrow. It could happen in 10 years. I don't want it. I ain't taking that risk, bruv. Ricketts would end up getting relegated within 5 years. Total incompetence, as what's been said there. That's an intriguing one for me. I don't think they're getting relegated, but I know they're not going to run them particularly well. Some of you are very, very strange. Terry has Chelsea connections. No. Man United connections. I don't know what that means. Oh, I have no connections. Well, you believe what you want, mate. What is the expression? A hit dog hollers. So whenever people lie about me or say things about me that are not true, you very rarely hear me say anything, because I don't concern myself with the opinions of empty people, you know? An empty vessel makes a lot of noise. So that's my take on these things. That was my worry with the Saudis, as well as what Jeff says. Bowley or Candy, the good choices. Red and White here, who's been a first-team member of the Terrace now for 11 months. Thank you so much. Says two Saudi funds own 60% of the Saudi media group. Those funds are backed by the Saudi government. Just because they aren't directly linked doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And this is true. And I'll give you an example. Like, this is what I mean by control. So when I worked at Barclays Bank, we're an English bank, okay? But we were controlled by the US government. Why? Because we were floated on the US stock market. So at any time, the United States of America could dictate something that we could or could not do, that we could or could not say, that we could or could not sell. On paper, there's no connection between the White House and Barclays Bank. But in reality, it happens. They still had a control over us, even though on paper there was none. Do you get my point? This is how these things can work. Winter Surfer here says it's either Holy Bowley or Randy Candy for me, is what he's got to say. So there we go. But listen, people, I've got to start getting set out for these shows we're bringing out for you later. Thank you all very, very much for tuning in. Smash the like button before you leave. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless.